Hey, Axie fans, and welcome back to Axie Tuesday. We're here with another interview, this time with a gentleman that you probably recognize. If you've been paying attention to competitive Axie, if you've been hanging out on that Axie Infinity Twitch page, you've seen this man. Spamandrice. He doesn't use capital letters. It took me a little while to figure out what your name actually was. It's like Spamand? What is that? Spamandrice? And then I finally figured it out. I'm so excited to dive deep with you. I really don't know much about you. I've watched your stream a fair amount. I love the energy that you've been bringing to the community. You've been doing all sorts of educational content. I've seen you like auditing people's Axies. It's an absolute pleasure. Spamandrice, welcome to Axie Tuesday, man. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me, Andrew.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think people can figure out by now I'm on a little bit of a remote setup, so fingers crossed, everything looking good, sounding good. We did some testing, and I think we're in great shape. But appreciate everybody tuning in today and joining us for another Axie Tuesday interview. Spam, first things first, like I want to hear about your origin story. Like, how did you get introduced to Axie? And then I maybe want to dive into your history a little bit. Like, I'm sure you've got some experience as a pro gamer, given how good you are at Axie, pushing the leaderboards and whatnot.
Actually, no prior experience in any competitive scene. For previous video games I've played, I've always been competitive and whatnot. But this is the first time I would consider myself a pro player, something where you can earn money from and make a living off of. As for my origin story, I don't have anything too special. I'm just like everyone else. Axie Infinity is a very, very hot and popular game. You're going to see it on articles all the time. You're going to see it trending on Twitter. Oh, hey, make money playing a video game. And that's naturally going to attract any player, right? Or any person. And that's what happened to me. I was just browsing Twitter. All of a sudden, I see something trending. It was around July last year. And I'm like, oh, this sounds too good to be true. I don't want to buy in at the peak and stuff like that. And then a few months later, I ended up, giving in, buying it, and it's probably the best decision I've ever made.
Isn't it such a weird feeling when you're evaluating something that's at the top, but it's still growing? So you're like, man, I didn't want to buy in at the all-time high, and then you come in the next day and you're like, wait, there's a new all-time high. Damn it, I missed my opportunity. The game theory around that is a little bit intimidating, especially if you're not like really experienced in the crypto space, or if you haven't invested that much. It can be a little bit hard to read the room. I'm curious, like, were you into Web3 and blockchain stuff already, or did that come along more like after you started getting into Axie?
Oh no, I am. The only thing I've ever invested in was maybe when it comes to crypto related things is all the mainstream stuff like Bitcoin or Dogecoin and stuff like that, right? Definitely had no clue about being able to earn money playing a video game until Axie, and now like I'm in a whole new world, and it's still like insane to me. I'm still trying to absorb it, and yeah, no other prior experience when it comes to that kind of stuff.
All right, so talk to me about your thoughts around Origin, though. Let's dive right into the meaty stuff, because this is a big change. I almost feel like kind of bad for players like you, where you're so masterful at version 2, you're going to have a lot of learning to do for version 3. That is fun and exciting. I think most people in this space enjoy learning, and that's like an exciting challenge. But I'm curious to hear your perspective around that. Are you nervous at all? Like, is there any world where you're like, man, I'm amazing at V2. Is this going to translate exactly to V3?
No, I'm not nervous at all. Actually, one of my biggest complaints, or not really a complaint, but I always have been a big fan of fast-paced games, right? And you know how in Axie Infinity, it can vary. Some games are very, very quick, and some games, players will take the whole minute to play a turn, especially in the pro scene. I absolutely cannot wait for Origin. From what I've heard, it's very fast, it's very reactionary, and as a player that plays off game instinct, and just that initial jerk reaction, I am stoked. As for it being a completely new game, I've always been an innovator. A lot of people got to know me last season, where I created one of the best comps in the game. It was the comp with the sneaky raid mech with the dusk in the middle and a discard poison plant up front.
Nasty.
And next thing you know,
Nasty.
Yeah, everyone in the top 100 was playing it, and that's one of my biggest things that I'm proud of. I don't always like copying what other people do. Instead, I like studying the game and making things myself. And with a brand new game coming, I just absolutely cannot wait to dive into it. Every single card game player or every single video game player themselves has always been so excited for patch day. Whether you're playing, Hearthstone, League of Legends, Valorant, any new news is great news, and I can't wait to dive into it, man.
Yeah, I share that. I think even coming from the Dota space, like patch day is always this highly awaited, like I can't wait to dive into the new info. And for a lot of esports, like that really is the key part of the skill set. The game changes regularly, so the best players have to create this ability to like, how do I learn as effectively as possible? Like learning actually becomes a skill that you have to min max because it's a race to break the meta, find the new combo, and kind of pave the way, right? Like you want to be the person that people are copying, not the other way around, right?
Exactly, and especially if you could cement yourself in like a part of Axie history. Everyone will remember season 19 as like the God Mech comp and whatnot. So I'm super happy about that, and I absolutely cannot wait to like make my mark on version 3 as well.
Oh man, I'm excited to see you try to crack open the meta. And like one of my favorite parts about Origin is just more diversity. Like there's just a lot of new mechanics, a lot of new strategies. Like you can do zoo comps with these different minions that can be summoned. We've seen that stuff teased a little bit. Obviously, poison is still a part of the game, so a ton of variety. Like there's even looks like potential maybe for like AOE comps. You could have a team that tries to do like AOE damage or like AOE healing. So there's just a wide breadth of strategies that don't exist now. But one change in particular I really want to get your take on, and this is one that we've posted about in the Substack, but a huge fundamental change from V3 to V2 has to do with the turn order, right? In V2, turn 1 happens, both players submit their actions blind, and then the turn happens when both players are done submitting their cards, right? So the speed order really matters, and then that turn happens. So there's a huge potential for mind games there where, if you pass at the wrong time or your opponent passes at the wrong time, or if you brick wall thinking he's going to do damage and then he gets inside of your head, that's a little bit different because in Origin now it's back and forth turns where I play my cards, and then my Axies attack or shield or heal or whatever they do, and then it's your turn, your Axies attack and shield. And I think it does make the pace of the game a little faster because you feel like you maybe have more control. Like when your turn is done and your Axies do stuff like immediately. But it is different. Like it changes there's still obviously mind games, and you still have to read your opponent. You can still calculate expected value, but that flow is markedly different. Any thoughts around that? Like, are you excited about that? Or are you not excited about that? Or just neutral and stoked to see what it's like?
No, I am so excited about that. I've come from games, I've played similar games like Clash Royale or Legends of Runeterra where it's more interactive. Instead of just, hey, everyone gets a minute, everyone gets to play their cards, and then we move on to the next turn, right? This is more it's more captivating. It keeps you on your toes, reactionary based games, and I'm just so excited to basically have my current favorite game evolve into a genre that I really love even more, right? So it's a dream come true for me, and I'm just like everyone else. I cannot wait to get my hands on a Zyori. Cannot wait.
Yeah, I have to admit, internally, the testing has been really fun. It seems like everybody at the company is just like really excited to engage in the new meta and like try out these different comps. And it's been really fun, and I'm super excited to see what folks like yourself get to innovate once we put it in your hands.
So since we're friends now, you're gonna give me like early access, right, Zio?
Well, I am curious, like, what are your collections like? Are you a collector at all? Like, obviously, you're a very competitive player. You understand strategy really well. Do you have, like, a Mystic? Do you have any Origins? Like, what's your most prized Axie?
In Axie Infinity, my most valuable thing I own is land, right?
Okay. That's a good one.
But
that's fair.
When it comes to Axie, the way I got my start here on Twitch, or the thing I was known for initially is it's kind of mean to Axies, and I know they have feelings and stuff, but I often buy Axies and sell them for more. So I'm always cycling through Axies. I'm known as like a marketplace guru as well. So when I feel like price of an Axie is about to dip, I will always sell it and rebuy it again when I want to use it for PvP or competitively. So not much of a collector myself, but in Origin, I hear there's gonna be some spicy stuff for those Mystics Axies, those Origin Axies, and I might get my hand on some. I'm gonna start shopping, to be honest.
Yeah, totally. Really exciting. Announcement just came out about Mystics getting some sort of major, cosmetic overhaul. I think that's super exciting. thoughts about like buying a Mystic? Has that like crossed your mind? Is that price point just out of reach for Spamandrice? Like, I'm curious. Like, I talk to a lot of people in the Axie space, and people have very diverse ways of engaging with the ecosystem. And there are a lot of people in Axie that like they are collectors first. Like that is their thing. They don't care about the battling. They really don't care about grinding SLP. They just want the coolest, rarest assets, and that's their goal. Do you resonate at all with that? Like, do you feel any sense of FOMO when you see like the Mystic holders talking about their collectibles, or that just ain't you?
No, I'm a competitive person. What makes games fun for me is being able to compete, being able to, dominate at the top. And as cool as like Mystic and Origin Axies are, unless there's a viable one that's usable in PvP, I probably will, save my money and dedicate most of my budget towards whatever it takes in order to stay at the top, right?
Okay.
But there's some really, really cool looking ones out there. And I do feel the urge, the itch, to get into it sometimes. After all, like if you asked me 5 months ago, hey, Andrew, would you buy a digital square block for $25,000? And I'd be, heck no, right? And now, next thing you know, last month I made my first land purchase. I bought a digital square for $25,000, and I'm happier than ever with it. So don't be surprised if my opinion changes. If you see a Mystic or Origin in my box next month, you're gonna be the one that says I told you so.
I love
you're
it.
Gonna be the reason why. You're gonna be the reason why I bought it.
Well, I love that you're open to change, though. I love that you even admit, like, hey, man, a month from now, I might get sold on these or like an Origin or a Mystic, and I might just make it happen. Like, I love that you're at least open to it. That's really cool.
For sure.
I want to ask you about like your general strategy on Twitch, right? We've seen a lot of different creators over the last 6 months cycle through different strategies. Like Bryson tried like the watch to earn type strategy to filter scholars. And it seems like, I don't want to call it a gimmick because that sounds so negative, but like one of the hooks of your stream is that you give people advice. Like people can just come into Twitch chat and be like, yo, Spam, I got this bird, I got this reptile. What do? Are these good? Like, how do I get better? And you'll really give people advice. Like, nah, sell that bird. You got to find one with these parts. Like, that reptile's pretty close, but you're missing this one stat. Like, you really go deep to try to, like, coach people. And to my understanding, like, you do that for free, right? That's just, like, part of your content on stream. And you're also kind of multitasking. Like, you're giving people advice, coaching strangers in Twitch chat, and then also grinding on the ladder while also selling Axies on the marketplace. Like, I often see your tweets where you're like, hey, today was a great day. All my Axies sold, so we had to stop grinding. And I've never done that before, actually. I've never, like, bought meta Axies, listed them, and then just grinded with them as long as I could before they sold. So it seems to me like you have a really cool and sort of like well-rounded approach on content creation. Like you're not just playing ladder, you're not just coaching, you're not just making memes. Like you've created this system of all these little like circles that are all overlapping with each other to create really kind of a unique Twitch experience. Like I don't know if there's anyone else in Axie who's really doing exactly what you're doing in terms of checking like 4 different boxes all at the same time. Simply put, like how the fuck do you do it, man? Like how do you have the bandwidth for that every day?
Well, for starters, there's no gimmick to my Twitch stream. I genuinely am just someone that really enjoys the game. And I was streaming this game with 5 viewers in my stream for 8 hours a day. And now I get a lot more than that, obviously. And I'm still doing the same thing. Nothing's ever changed. I've offered free coaching and free team building since the very start. And the main reason why I do that, Zyori, is imagine getting into a brand new game, a brand new world. And, it's not a shallow investment. You have to invest a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And the biggest regret that people have, and I ask my Twitch chat this all the time, is, hey, do you regret your first team? And 90% of people do, correct? Because either they just bought,
and I thought it was perfect when I was buying it. I spent a week doing research. I was like, all right, this is it. This is the bird. And I didn't know what aroma did, and my bird had aroma, and I threw a shitload of games suiciding my bird for absolutely no gain. So, yeah. I was that noob, anecdotally, 100%, dude.
Same here. I came into the game, and there was, it's no matter how many YouTube videos you watch, everything always, changes. And so whatever you buy, you're going to most likely regret. So I wanted to make sure that no one else felt the same problem that I did when I first started. I started off this game with a team comp I didn't really like. And out there, people were charging money to build comps for you. People were charging money for coaching. And my very first few days, I was just so bad. I didn't like my Axies. I didn't know what I was doing. So I want to give back. and I want to make sure every single player has that great first experience. Everyone knows games are more fun when you're winning, right? And games are more fun when you're enjoying what you're doing. So no matter like how big I've grown on Twitch and whatnot, I've always stuck to my core principle is new player experience, or even like, veteran player experience. And that's one of the things I'm most proud about. Even to this day, I just did a coaching session before this stream, and I'm gonna do a coaching session afterwards. Free coaching, free team building, whatever you guys might need, just simply because I'm so passionate about this game, and I want everyone to love it just as much as me. And yeah, so.
Damn. Spoken like a true mercenary, man. I mean, that's amazing. I almost don't know how to like process that. You're just in it for the love of the game. It sounds too good to be true. As somebody that's on the developer side, you're basically like, I'm just here to help onboard new players and make sure they had a better experience than I did. That's wild. That's like, it's not completely selfless. Obviously, you benefit from your Twitch stream, but it is kind of selfless in a way. Like, I don't know of any other creator that's doing it the way you are, certainly not as long or consistently. And it's very impressive. I just hope you don't get burned out. That's what I'm concerned about. You're going so hard. I see you streaming on Twitch every single day. Like, how do you prevent yourself from burning out? How do you prevent your back from hurting, from sitting in your chair all day? Like, what's the real world balance here for Spamandrice like?
So it's actually kind of crazy. Prior to Axie Infinity, I was just your normal guy, 9-to-5 job. Basically, I just playing regular video games and stuff like that. And then when I dove into this brand new world where you're making money playing video games, I'm still in the honeymoon phase, man. I know it's been like 5 months, but I'm still feeling giddy about it. I still wake up every single day trying to play Axie. I only have 60 energy. Very, very often on stream, you see me play 100 games, right? And for what reason? I'm still in that honeymoon phase, and I hope it never wears out because I'm genuinely still enjoying it. But that's the awesome part about Twitch and about the game in general. It's so deep, and you know that there's so many cards, so many endless possibilities. I've been playing for 5 months now, and I'm still so surprised, and I'm always thinking of new ideas and new Axies to build and whatnot. And it keeps it very interesting, keeps it very fresh for me. And not one day, like I've only missed 2 days of streaming since I started streaming this game. Wow. Not one day have I ever felt like, maybe I should take a break. I was forced those 2 days. One of them was some guest came over, and another one was a special occasion that I had to take a day off for. So.
Yeah, sometimes real life calls. That's how it goes, I think. And I also I appreciate how honest you are on stream. Like, I don't watch all of your streams, obviously, but I tuned in a couple weeks ago or maybe a month ago at this point, and there's sort of an interesting thing unfolding in Twitch chat where somebody was accusing you of sort of like false advertising of like, hey, I sent you my comp, you didn't give me any feedback. And you seem to take it understandably almost a little bit personally, and you showed the messages that the guy sent you, and he sent you some comps, you sent some feedback, and he sent you like 40 messages or something. I mean, this absolute spam. And you had a really nice speech about like entitlement and like, hey bro, listen, I'm trying to help you. You're not the only person talking to me, and like you slow your roll, son. And you were very direct, you were very stern, you kind of made a joke out of it, but I think you actually turned it into a really nice PSA of like, yo, like, respect the bandwidth, dude. Like, I'm here to help, and I want to help, but you don't own me. So, like, just chill out a little bit with demanding that I respond to you right away. And I appreciated your ability to cut through that situation and meaningfully stand up for yourself without going overboard and, like, you didn't say anything mean about you didn't like lay into him too hard beyond just like what felt kind of appropriate of like somebody was being really entitled about your time. I guess I don't know what the question is there. I'm curious if you can unpack that a little bit. And like, does that wear you down, having people that come at you and then try to spin your positive effort as like, this guy's a phony or like, whatever they try to say?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I feel bad. That's probably one of my uglier sides that you saw.
Oh, I'm so sorry then. I didn't mean
and
to
maybe we have
different
definitions of ugly, but I'm pretty sure okay, never mind. We're not gonna talk about it. But it just, people have to, understand I'm only human at the end of the day, right? If I'm offering things like free coaching, free team building, my requests are going to be very, very high, right? So I'm not always going to be able to get back to you right away. Sometimes I might miss a DM or two, but I often say, just bump it up, send me another message and whatnot. and I will get back to you. This viewer in specific, he felt very, very entitled. I spent like a few hours with him the day before.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize you had even spent that much time with him. Wow.
Yeah, not through my PMs, but through my personal Discord as well. I mean, my Discord server. So I've already talked to him already, and I said, hey, my first piece of advice is, sell this Axie. It was an Axie. It's a bird with pincer. It just doesn't make sense. And then let me, with that budget, after you sell that one Axie, even if you only sell it for 0.02, which was the floor at the time, I can put together a proper team for you. And he just kept pushing it, and pushing it. And saying stuff like, "Oh, you only say this to grow your stream." I'm like, no, sir. I don't think that's one of the best ways to grow a stream. I do believe, my stream has grown over time due to various amount of things, and one of them is the effort I put into the game and whatnot. Just being a competitive player, being at the top, because people like watching one of the best. I'm not calling myself one of the best, but
your rank does speak for itself to some degree. You're pushing top of the leaderboard, so I think saying that you're one of the better players right now is an understatement. I mean, you're one of our top competitors from a leaderboard perspective. So don't sell yourself short, man. It's okay to have a little bit of that confidence when you got the rank to back it up.
All right, thank you. I appreciate those words, Andrew. But yeah, so this guy in specific, just really didn't like his attitude. Really, didn't like how he came at me. I tried ignoring his messages on Twitch for the first two ones when he was just trying to spam get everyone's attention. Yeah. Eventually, I had to address it, and that's just the downsides of streaming. Sometimes you are gonna run into people like that. Not everyone's gonna be pleasant if you're streaming every single day. And yeah, lesson learned. We moved on. Learned a little bit more about, just being a little more. I don't know what the exact term for it is, but be a little more patient. I feel like I could have handled that situation a little better. You might have thought I handled it well, but I do have to understand that with every 100 good people that you're gonna meet, there's gonna be one sour apple, and you don't have to call them out each time. You can take the method where you ignore them or just talk to them kindly and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean. We can always do better, right? I think in retrospect, we can always look at any situation and say, I could have handled that a little bit better. But I think overall, I empathize with you because it really sucks when somebody attacks your reputation. And that even though what that person is saying is not justified based on the amount of effort you put in and you did give him advice, other people will read that and that can start like a little virus. That could be a thread on Twitter where people retweet it, then all of a sudden you have this unfair tattoo on your head that you're advertising coaching services and then not delivering, and that's just super unfair and really not cool. And I admire that you stood up for yourself, I guess is kind of where I was like, damn, this guy he knows his worth and he's not going to be pushed around. And I think that is important. It's hard to be a content creator, and confidence it's like having confidence without having your ego overwhelm. That's such a tricky balance for popular content creators. And that was a moment where I felt like I wasn't sensing ego. I was mostly sensing confidence and knowing I'm going to stand my ground because this is unfair. So yeah, I wanted to give a little shout out. It was funny that was just one clip that I happened to notice. With how much content you pump out on Twitch, do you feel like you miss out on other places? And I don't mean this to sound like a criticism, but I don't see you in Twitter Spaces that often compared to a lot of the other Axie creators or Axie Maxies that are really active. And I know there's just only so many hours in the day, right? You can't be in two places at once. Do you feel like there's an opportunity cost there? Do you feel like the amount of dedication you have for Twitch content comes at an opportunity cost in other aspects of community building or parts of the game outside of just MMR and coaching and teams?
For me, I've always just had the same mentality. Is just do what you love and don't ever make anything feel like a job and whatnot. So that's why I haven't even pushed myself towards the YouTube platform. I don't have a YouTube platform for Axie Infinity itself.
Yo, you need to get an editor who is clipping your shit and editing that shit for YouTube. You're just missing out on free impressions, man. That one is a criticism. You got the bags now. Just get yourself one of those video editors. It's easy. Scalable, dude. Scale that Spamandrice.
Yeah, my boss eggs me on all the time. He's like, be more active on Twitter, do this, do TikTok, do YouTube. And I'm just a go of the flow guy. Streaming is just so fun. It's a passion of mine. Axie Infinity is a passion of mine. I didn't even realize that that Twitter Spaces were important until recently. So yeah, I never really feel FOMO. I'm a type of guy that doesn't really care about the numbers. I know that sounds really weird, but I've been preaching this ever since I started streaming. Um, I'm just gonna turn on my camera, do this, do that, and just I would never want this to ever feel like a job, Andrew. When your passion, everyone says like, do what you love. When your passion starts becoming a burden, like, oh hey, I have to submit this YouTube video by today. Oh hey, I have to attend this Twitter space. Um,
You're
it
speaking my
just
language so hard right now, dude. That was me at
Mhm.
the end of my Dota career. Like, I love the nuts and bolts of actually doing the commentary. Everything else, like the politics to get the gig and like, you know, everything else was kind of unfun, but the work itself felt so amazing, and that was such a hard thing to balance where like the passion was there. I still have a passion for commentary. I still love Dota. It's still my favorite game of all time. I've got 12,000 hours casting, watching, playing Dota. That's an absurd amount of time to be like engaged in one video game, and that pales in comparison to the pro players like 1437 and these other guys that have like
yeah.
20,000 or 25,000 hours of playtime in Dota 2. So like that passion never left, but the ecosystem and like the business part and the project management and the networking and all this stuff was like, it's really competitive and it really wears you down to have to constantly be fighting for gigs. And there's like a scale there where eventually the benefit doesn't really outweigh the reward. And that's why I was so excited to find a new opportunity and join this Web3 space and start to build products that I think can actually make a difference in the gaming scene and also just in the world, right? So
Yeah.
I feel you completely, but I think sometimes it gets a little bit harder, especially as you get bigger. Like, imagine if you get to the point where you've got like 5,000 viewers per day, and then you start to get that feeling of, oh man, like I gotta ride this train. Like if I stop now, I'm just missing all this momentum. Like I came this far, how far can we go? But then it does start to become a job. Like to scale that ship at that point, to manage all those moving pieces, you need like a moderation team, you need a content manager, you need somebody bringing you sandwiches so that you can fuel on the go. Like life gets fucking complicated real quick, dude.
Yeah, for sure. I understand. I understand. But yeah, for now, like I said, I'm still in the honeymoon phase of Axie, maybe even like streaming Axie itself. Um,
I love it.
eh, yeah, so I want to talk a little more about. I mentioned my boss earlier, right? I want to talk a
Yeah,
little bit more about my team, my vision when it
please.
comes to that.
Absolutely.
So I am under an organization called SuperWhale, right?
Hmm.
You guys might have heard of us. We just recently started making a lot of noise in the competitive scene, whether it's showing up on ladder or showing up in tournaments. I want to talk more about my next passion, and it's esports. So when it comes
Yes.
to esports, this game, like you've been part of Dota and everything, um, you know, you know more about that than me, even, right? So basically, from the outsider's perspective, they look at this game, they're like, "Oh, three cute little Axies. How can this possibly be competitive?" But coming from someone who's played so many games, like so many card games, like Hearthstone, Runeterra,
Hmm.
Slay the Spire, or like even just MOBAs or FPS games like Valorant or League, this game is actually one of the most challenging things I've ever played. One turn can decide the whole game, right? And it's up to you to consistently perform perfectly. And it's a very, very competitive game. It's a game that takes a lot of innovation in order to stay at the top as well. So I can't wait to see the esports scene in Axie evolve over time. I know you guys did a great job with giving us those grants for the season. I feel like I have huge tournaments every single week, and so I wanted to go into what I was talking about earlier when it comes to esports.
Hmm.
My current goal, shout out to my boss, Bruce. He gives me full trust when it comes to this. He let me put together an esports team for our organization. And that is currently what I am putting my main focus on. Recruiting the best players, but not just the best players, a group of innovators. So when games like version 3 comes out, we're going to be the first people to build the comp that Elijah makes in his next YouTube video and whatnot. And there's just so much to learn and so much to do out there.
So how
Um,
big is the organization right now? Like how many players are you guys up to? Do you have kind of like a target number that you're looking for? What's the scope here?
not really. Currently, our team is full of 15 people, and that's actually quite a lot, right? But
Yeah.
we're trying to make this healthy atmosphere where we can give our players the best environment to compete in. whether it's having scrimmage partners all the time, whether it's having coaching all the time. Um, and so I guess the more the merrier, but we do want to be selective at the same time. And as time goes on, we can, filter out who we value as a teammate and who we don't. And man, Andrew, there's so much money out there in the competitive scene that we want to consistently stay at the top. We want our org's name to be represented in these huge tournaments. And whatever it takes, our my boss is buying us Axies whenever we want. If he feels like we can compete with them, or we need them for top 100, or we need them for a certain teammate tournament. And yeah, man, it's the esports scene's so brand new. Imagine like years from now, we're gonna have leagues where organizations like SuperWhale or MTA or YGG are competing against each other on a weekly basis. It's insane, and I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
Yeah,
and I'm so happy I'm in early.
Again, you're speaking my language. We're early in general in esports, even in in Axie, even in crypto, but specifically for Axie esports. Like if Axie's in alpha, our esports is like pre-alpha. And
Exactly.
we might have been a little further along if for the first grant we could have opened it up a lot more. But that was a time when the servers were having a lot of issues handling all of the new players that were coming in. This was like last year, like January. What am I talking about? July, August. This kind of era. So when we launched the grant, everything was on that private esports server where we had to give everybody like specific allow list kind of access. It really hamstrung our ability to run these big events. And it pained me to not be able to run tournaments that had big open qualifiers, but the server just couldn't handle it. So we really had no choice. So esports was this really limited thing. And it's felt so good to see this grant number 2 come out where we can just open the floodgates. We can say, hey, everybody does an open qualifier now. Scaling's not an issue. Let's start like up in the ante here. Let's start green lighting some small leagues. We want to take small steps, but meaningful steps so that the esports infrastructure is built organically, but also with a backbone and this balance of like Sky Mavis will do some first party events to show that we're serious and add some structure to the space. But a lot of it is about uplifting third parties and allowing them to run really amazing, robust tournaments in the ecosystem. And I got to tell you, man, there's a lot of organizations out there that are ready and waiting, but haven't made the plunge yet. We've had a lot of like private biz dev calls with, names you would very much recognize from the traditional esports world, both on the tournament organizer side and on like the team side. And it just makes me really excited. Like once we get an Axie Pro League kind of model up and running and there's that regular infrastructure and there's enough prize dollars that these teams can justify the investment because they, all these giant orgs now have like huge VC dollars. So they can't just YOLO into stuff. There has to be some path to ROI, AKA prize money. So I think we're taking big steps there, and I think we're going to see esports start to take more of like a slope growth rather than just linear growth over the next like 18 months or so. And that's Origin, crazy, of course, man, is a huge unlock for this stuff to start coming into focus.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. And another thing that's very common in other type of esports, like the more mainstream games, the pro players are getting paid, right? Mm-hmm. And we're in that phase of Axie right now where players are starting to get paid. I'm a big advocate on people knowing what they're worth to an organization and whatnot. And so recently, I've been thankfully, so like a little sidetrack. I do Axie full time now. But as you know, in Axie Infinity, no matter how much money I might be making from the marketplace or SLP or AXS, nothing's always ever stable, right? So I found a home in SuperWhale that's able to pay me a salary. So no matter what happens in the crypto world, I'll always have that finite amount of income. And ever since then, I'm like, hey, you know what? What if we started doing this for a lot more people? So we hired on a head coach, man, and our applications are always open for, people that feel like they can compete at a very, very high level. And that's the next step. We want to start getting people paid. I know other companies such as YGG already doing the same thing. They shout out to their elite team. Amazing people. And it seems like a little silly giving someone, I can't talk numbers, this amount of money to just play the game or compete at the game. But we're in that phase now where Axie is starting to become very profitable in the tournament scene. I recently just competed in a tournament. It's the Beat Esports tournament, and I won that tournament. And the prize pool was 150 AXS. And AXS, I am really bullish on it. I think it's going to go up. I won 55 AXS from that tournament, and I won a lot of other first places and second places. Even top 8, you get paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the money is insane, Andrew. Like I am on track to make a lot. I can't say like numbers, but
You're
like
doing well. You're comfortable.
it's
You're
insane.
eating.
Yeah.
We're eating. Nice. We're ordering in, boys. Woo. No, dude, that's so sick, and it makes me happy to hear that because I think like one of the coolest thing. There's a couple reasons why I think like the technology of blockchain can actually help esports. Like it's not just a marketing gimmick, but it actually can change things. Like the transparency does matter. There's been a lot of like big esports events that didn't pay out prize pools to players. Like the ability to use blockchain to like lock a prize pool into a smart contract, for example, and say, hey, I can prove that I at least have the money. You know, if we could mix in some oracles that could verify tournament status and then actually unlock that, like that would be huge compared to the traditional world. But because the game itself can be profitable to play, especially if you're a competitor on the high level and you're like innovating the meta and kind of pushing the marketplace and staying ahead of the breeding curve, like you as a player now have a lot more leverage because you make something just by playing Axie and being good. So when an organization comes to you and says, hey, we want to make you an offer for a salary, you're already in a better place and a better headspace to evaluate that and have confidence to stand on your own 2 feet and reject offers that are not good for you. In the Dota space, right? Like Dota's either free or you pay to play it in the form of buying cosmetics. So if you're an aspiring pro that maybe you're in that upper echelon of like elite, I'm a top 200 player in the world, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're making enough money to survive in terms of your salary if you're not on a team that has a lot of sponsors or if you're on a team that's just 5 players without an official organization. And I've seen a lot of players get stuck in this trap where they take a really bad deal with an org because they're just like, the last 6 months, we've had 0 income. So we'll take any offer because we need to eat so we can keep playing. And that like kind of breaks my heart a little bit. Like I feel like that's a bit of a broken system and it puts the players specifically in this really strange power dynamic where they don't have that much leverage against these VC-backed organizations that can come in and throw a little bit of money at them and then leverage the players' brands for a huge gain and keep most of the profits. So I think on a basic level, like you're already really well positioned to be a little bit insulated from that. Like if an org came in and made you a really bad offer, you could just go, nah, I'm good, bro. I'm doing all right on my own. I'll just keep flipping Axies, thanks. I'm going to hold out for something better. Does that resonate at all? Like, do you feel like you have more leverage, given just the structure of Web3 and the marketplace and stuff?
Yeah, I really do feel like it. And I'm also starting to teach other players, specifically that are, free agents and whatnot. They're starting to come to me, say, hey, is this a fair offer? I actually know like the value behind the scenes of like almost every player's contract, because they're all my friends and we all talk about it and whatnot. And I just want to make sure everyone's getting what they're worth. No one's getting locked into a bad contract or anything like that. And having that salary definitely makes me a lot more confident when it comes to leveraging and all the things you mentioned.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And as you mentioned, like tournaments now are paying down deeper. I think that's another big aspect of Web3 that makes me so excited for esports. Traditionally, esports is this thing that only the upper elite get to touch because the prize pools are locked for like, hey, you have to qualify for the qualifier to get to the tournament and all the money is in the tournament. In a lot of traditional esports, you could spend a lot of time playing in a qualifier and lose that final series and you walk away with a goose egg. And I empathize with traditional esports because it is really hard. There's been a lot of orgs that have tried to crack the code on this esports for everyone type concept, but it doesn't work in the centralized world. It's too expensive to send money all around the world in these small increments, and it's a logistical nightmare to try to, you can't wire like $50 to somebody because it costs $20 to send a wire. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's use PayPal. All right, well, what about all the countries that don't have PayPal or the people that there is no good unified system that allows you to do esports for everyone on a global scale. Guess what, dude? Now we got Ronin, where your account is your wallet. So, like, if you win one round in an open qualifier, we can go, great, there you go, 0.1 AXS, congratulations. And every round that you progress in the tournament, maybe you increase that purse just a little bit. And not that 0.1 AXS is some game-changing amount of money, but it's pretty badass that we could actually pay prize pools down to, like, the amateur-level people or the aspiring pros that aren't good enough to make it to the playoffs, but they still get something for their time. They still get something for participating. This is something that I think a lot of people underestimate, like the impact of this in terms of allowing esports to, I think, touch just a lot more people outside of just being a fan.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of which, you're right. When you're talking about how anyone can just compete, unlike other sports where, have to go through all these qualifiers. Hey, there's a $5,000 tournament this weekend, right? Anyone can enter. And that's what's so cool about our scene so far. Um, Speaking of which, the fact that I say anyone can enter, I've been doing very, very well in tournaments, right? Um, I'm a top 100 player, like 99%, I'm 95% of the days in this game. And my past two tournaments, Andrew, I got knocked out by a 1400 MMR player and an 1800 MMR player. That just goes to show you that everyone has equal opportunity, right? You
Wow.
don't have to be the best in the game. You don't have to. I have some of the best Axies in the world, but in a game where it really rewards, your ability to read someone. Anything could happen, and sometimes I get so used to playing these great players that I expect them to make the best play. And next thing you know, I'm facing a 1400 MMR player that just does the craziest things. And I got knocked out of a $3,000 tournament this past weekend because of it. And that's all, honestly, instead of being sad, I was just like, that's amazing, man. The opportunity for like anyone, no matter what your player level is, whatever your MMR is, to take down some of the greatest players in this game. And it's awesome, bro. It's awesome.
Yeah, wow, that's so great to hear. I love it. One of the things I'm most excited about for Origin is no more random crits. I think as a competitive player, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I can't imagine you're a fan of random crits, but based on what you just said, that is a mechanic that allows sometimes for that to happen. A 1400 player can beat a 2800 player because there are some top deck elements, right? There are some crit elements. There's obviously a lot of strategic elements. Thoughts about that? Are you a random crit hater?
I was trying to avoid that subject. I didn't want to blame crits because, I'm pretty sure the developer team gets that complaint almost every single day. But yeah, crits do happen, and I am so excited for version 3 to come out because it feels like almost every single player, good or bad, is just blaming crits for their losses. But I do want to touch up on that. I actually, unlike other players, I really don't mind crits as much as others. I really feel like if you play a big enough sample size, RNG will balance itself out, right? A
Definitely.
game of poker, which is all luck, right? Why do you consistently see the same players up at the top on the final table when it's all like luck based, right? Why do you see players in Axie Infinity always consistently at the top leaderboard when they're playing just as many games as you? They're getting crit just as much as you. They crit too and whatnot. Why do you consistently see them at the top? One of the things in my stream is people will often call me lucky. I do crit a lot, which is probably the main reason why people think that I'm not against it as much. But no, they only remember the good times. But I've been knocked out of tons and tons of tournaments. I've lost thousands of games due to criticals before, right? But I'm a firm believer that, if you can consistently perform and you consistently believe in yourself as a player, things will balance out and results will show. I'm on a hot phase right now where I am always at the top when it comes to tournaments or ladder and stuff like that. But I've been through weeks, Andrew, where I was getting knocked out first round due to crits and whatnot. And I just kept my head in there. I knew who I was as a player. And results will show. You're not going to be crit out of every single tournament. You're not going to lose every single game due to crit. That's the reason why there's formats in this game like best of 3, best of 5 in tournaments and whatnot. So I'm not the biggest fan of the people that are constantly complaining about crits. I do understand how painful it is. I've felt the pain myself. But if you are good enough, man, trust me, you will get the results that you want. So I'm as much as excited as I am for version 3. Every single game has luck towards it, right? If it's not crits this patch in version 3, they're gonna be complaining about, oh, my starting hand, or
Right. Card draw is still a
card
very,
draw.
very
Yeah,
random
I mean,
aspect.
like,
100%.
there's always gonna be a reason for people to complain. And I'm telling you right now, man, you are in the wrong genre of games if you do not fix your mentality. Go play an FPS game or something like that. Whereas it's all skill based. It's one of my pet peeves when it's just nonstop complaining. It's like you're signing up for it, right?
I feel you. No, I think you make a good point that every card game has some sort of random element to it, just by nature of you shuffle the cards and then you top deck something. So that will create a degree of variance. And I think most people would argue from a game design perspective that some variance is good. Games that are true, and they're hard to make, they're rare, but 100% just complete skill based, it is ultra competitive, and that can be really fun to watch, but the best player always wins in an environment that's 100% skill based. So it's not always fun to be on the losing side of that, where you're like, God, I have no option to beat this guy because he's just better. There's no option for me to have a path to victory. That can get a little unfun after a while. So there is a balance there for sure. And ironically, for people that are really good, if you win all the time, that also isn't that fun. It's really fun in the short term, but the high goes away if you had 100% win rate. It's not fun anymore because it's not competitive. It's not hard. You're too good. And for the people that you're pummeling that have a 0% win rate, obviously it's not fun for them either. So like the best game design really does have like a middle ground between those two, where the best players still don't win 100% of the time, and that helps keep it interesting for them and bringing them back. And then obviously it gives chances for the underdogs too.
Yeah, exactly. People have to remember, like, the game's not catered towards the pro scene or just the very best players. Games in general have a huge casual player base, and that casual player base is the reason why we're able to make this money in this game, or the reason why the game is so big itself. And like I said, you can't expect a game that's just full on skilled just to satisfy your ego. You have to think about the game economy and the game player base, and that's why variance is always really important in these type of games.
Yeah. Totally. And it's all about balance too, right? You don't want to have too many random elements. I often use like the Ogre Magi analogy in Dota, where it's like a hero who's based on being random, but it's sort of in a package where it feels like, okay, you start to feel the expected value, and it kind of averages out over the course of a match. And it's a good example of where some randomness can be put in a box that makes it a good playing experience. I wanted to ask you about the recent dialogue around creator codes or referral codes, whatever you want to call them. Okay. I don't know if you tuned into any of those Twitter spaces like retroactively, or if you saw any of that dialogue, but definitely a bit polarizing. I think we made some mistakes on the messaging and how we put it out there, but I'd love to get your thoughts as somebody who's streaming and as a content creator. Like, do you feel passionately about referral codes or creator codes? I'd love to just hear your thoughts around like what you think would be the best model.
So many people have like, I'm around Twitter, right? Like, maybe I'm not as active on Twitter Spaces, but I see a bunch of complaints on Twitter. I'm just, oh gosh, okay, I'll just say my honest opinion. As a content creator myself, as someone that does this full time, right? I could care less about them. Oh, this is gonna sound really
I mean,
bad.
if that's your honest opinion, I mean, I think that there are some people that like. It's just one more revenue stream, right? And you might be structured in a way where that revenue stream is not as a big of a deal to you. That doesn't mean it isn't a big deal to someone else. But I think you're certainly allowed to speak from your personal perspective. And if that's how you're set up, then please, I want to hear more about it. Like, this is interesting.
Yeah. So basically, like, especially. Maybe it's just because I'm American, right? And maybe that 1% wouldn't mean as much to me as it does to someone else in the world. Creator codes, when I heard they're going to, charge everyone basically 1% more in order to feed my pocket, right? I initially just didn't like the idea of it, simply because 99.9% of the player base isn't a content creator. So you're basically kind of making things more expensive for almost everyone, right? So I really didn't like that initially. So that's why I said, like, I don't really care for creator codes.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if there is like a certain way that you guys can, help, financially benefit the content creators without, financially harming some other players. Like, for example, I used the analogy about how, 1% America might not mean as much as 1% somewhere else. Imagine, people in the Philippines and whatnot paying that extra percent. It doesn't really seem fair, I guess. So if there's ever like a brand new solution and whatnot, I'm all ears for it. But in the meantime, I'm the type of guy who just stays away from all the drama, tries to not give his opinions. I see tons of, I'm like, what's all the fuss about? It's just something that you guys initially announced. Nothing's like solid. Nothing is set in stone yet, right? And I trust you guys to, make the best decision that will make everyone happy. Obviously, not everyone's going to be happy, but, a general amount of people happy. So until that day comes, I'm just going to leave my mouth out of it. Probably something I don't really care too much about talking about. It just causes a headache.
I
But
love it. You're
that's
here to avoid drama, and here I am asking you for your take on the latest hot drama. I'm so sorry, my friend.
no,
But
it's okay. It's okay,
I
Andrew.
do really appreciate your perspective, and I think it is valid. Like, I think it's an important piece of the puzzle because you are one of our most consistent and right now one of our bigger streamers. So, even if you feel like your opinion might be kind of unpopular, I think it's still important for us to factor that into the decision making. I don't want to say specifically where we're going with the creator program because there's been so much feedback and so much data that we've collected. We're still in the process of parsing it and trying to figure out, okay, given everything that people have suggested, what is the optimal path that will make the most people happy, that will still be sustainable within the system and scalable, and we're working on it. So when we're ready to reveal that, we certainly will. But I think that's an interesting perspective. I do appreciate you sharing that with us. And now I feel a little bad for digging it out.
No.
You tactfully stay away from Twitter, it seems. That's smart. You're a smart man. That's probably good for your mental health.
Yeah, like I said, you never want to have anything stress related, correlated with something you love, right? So just separate them. Just keep doing me. Keep just enjoying everything I love doing already. So yeah, that's my take on it.
No, that's fantastic. Totally different topic, but I threw out a tweet the other day about more tournaments trying to push like best of 5 as kind of a minimum. I would love to hear your thoughts about like ideal tournament formats, both in terms of like best of whatever, what's kind of the ideal number for different parts and brackets. And then also these different formats we've seen tournaments experiment with in terms of you bring 10 Axies, then both sides get to ban one at the beginning of the series. Thoughts about those sort of systems and like what do you feel like is the perfect Axie competitive mode? Is this like 10 and 10 with one ban optimal? Do we need more variety? Where are you at with all this?
First of all, I'll just give you my dream scenario of
Perfect.
what I want the Axie competitive scene to be. First of all, it's going to be definitely have a capped amount of Axies and register your Axies. There's so many tournaments out there, and I understand why they have this. It's just so much more work putting together a spreadsheet of registering all players' Axies. But some of the biggest tournaments out there will let you use an unlimited amount of Axies. Some of us are just filling up our boxes with just a bunch of random stuff, so it's impossible to scout us, right? And then you're using a specific comp, and last second you can transfer your teammates' Axie over to your box and catch them off guard, right? I love how in esports the preparation phase is the most important part, right? Whether it's like gameplay review, studying specific comps, studying specific counters, just having that unlimited format is absolutely kind of ridiculous in my opinion, especially for players like myself who get the resources to have unlimited Axies, right? From people I know. So obviously that's coming from a non-biased perspective. I have the advantage and I'm still against it, right?
I agree. I think unlimited is just, it's too wide of a gap. Like Indez has 1,000 Axies. That's quite a pool to pick from, I agree totally with that part.
Yeah. And then second, when it comes to best of 3 and best of 5, I do think best of 5 sounds amazing, right? But oh my gosh, I've played in so many tournaments where it takes the whole day. So imagine we have these tournaments when on average the tournaments I join have 264 players, right? Where every single player is playing best of 5. So as much as I think best of 5 is important in terms of neutralizing the luck element and things, and most of the times in the best of 5 series, you can clearly see the better player, right? And the better player does move on. There has to be some kind of balance between time constraint and having that, because imagine we can't have every single player playing best of 5 series, especially in that first round.
Yeah,
so I do think in the later rounds, what people have been doing they have been making it more best of 5. So it starts out best of 3 to best of 5 to best of 7, and that seems like a pretty good balance so far.
Okay.
But my number one thing I want to do is so we'll have a tournament, set amount of Axies. There needs to be like round robin and Swiss type of style. I come from competitive TCGs like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And let's say everyone has 3 lives. The moment they get knocked out 3 times, they're out of the tournament, and then like last man standing kind of thing, or the top 8 get to go into the playoff bracket, right?
Yeah.
So that's my dream scenario. Everyone here, you put in a certain amount of Axies, you play best of 3s. All the 1 and O's, all the people that won their first round will be facing against each other. All the O and 1s, the people that lost their first round will be facing each other. And then you just keep playing until there's a top 8. And then those top 8 will be in the tournament format. That will eliminate a lot of people's... Right now, a lot in the scene is so much pressure. 1 loss and you're out.
Yes.
Majority of tournaments don't even have a double elimination bracket just because it's really time consuming. It's going to take multiple days in order to cover. So I do like that Swiss style, and I do want us to explore it more. I have been in a tournament that you guys sponsored that did do that format. Shout out to Axie Rabbit. I think it was like some winter invitational. That's probably my favorite format.
French
so
Axie. Oh, that is really great feedback. And I very much agree with you. I think with these esports grants, like part of the motivation here is just allowing people in Axie to get practice. And in some ways, like it's good that we don't have a ton of viewers on esports right now because we have a lot of organizers and casters that are still getting their feet wet. You know, this might be the first big tournament they've run. Like a 500-person bracket can actually be a lot to manage if it's your very first tournament. Seeing some of these commentators like, hey, this is my 20th hour on the mic for a live tournament. I'm loving it, but I can, I still feel very new and green. This is the perfect time to like run those experiments and work on it, improve and iterate. So I think it's just going to get better from here. I think for a lot of the first party tournaments that we're starting to think and plan, not like the small invitationals, but like Axie Pro League kind of tournaments, very much the kind of format you were talking about. Like I think I love the triple stage. You have like an open qualifier broken by regions or, geography or something that leads to like a regional kind of playoff stage, maybe 64 players from each region, something like that, 8 groups of 8, something in there, play a nice round robin, maybe top 2 from each group moves on, and then you have that big playoff bracket, and that's like double a limb, maybe that's all best of 5, and it's this final epic showdown of like, bottom bracket, let's see who's going to make the run, and then you look to crown the champion that way. That would be kind of my ideal model in terms of league formats. I definitely also want to throw out there, I think it's very hard for third parties to do that right now, the way we've structured the grants.
For sure.
We're sort of like trying to get more variety. We want more organizers, so it's like less AXS per individual or per organization, but we want to spread it out across more organizations. So it's all step by step, but I think your head's totally in the right place. And it's actually kind of nice to hear that like we have some alignment in what we feel like could be the ideal sort of structure to start building out some leagues and stuff. That makes me feel a little better about some of the stuff we've been modeling internally.
For sure. And I can't wait to see what you guys have in mind. Coming from someone that's been part of the pro Dota scene yourself, right? I completely put my full trust on you, and I'm going to be happy with whatever comes out. So I can't wait.
Yeah, we're definitely going to build something from the bottom up. Like we're going to take some parts of the Dota space. I think the Dota esports scene has done some things really, really well. If you flash back like 6 or 7 years ago, Dota was so far ahead of the curve with stuff like Dota TV and like the crowdfunding and allowing tournaments to sell cosmetics and digital goods through the game. Like all that stuff was super cool, and I think there's definitely some inspiration there. But like Magic the Gathering has done some really cool stuff with their competitive circuit over their long history. Hearthstone, even though it wasn't my favorite game, I think the structure of their esports setup was actually really good, and that was a big part of why Hearthstone was able to sustain as like kind of a tier 1 esport for a run there, like whatever it was, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So a lot of inspiration out there, and I think we're going to try to collect the best of all those systems and then combine them to make something that's unique and very fitting for our Web3 experience. So, we'll take some stuff from the Web2 world, but I think we're going to try to pave our own path, man. I think we want to try to do a couple things differently.
I love that. Yeah, I love it, man. I love to hear that. I'm excited, and I'm excited that the Axie Infinity team has the same amount of passion towards the competitive scene as their players do, because I know you guys are putting a lot of effort into it and just trying to find the right balance. And the money you put into it in general just already speaks for itself. So I appreciate it, man.
Dude, I mean, that's like one of the last parts about Web3 that is so exciting to me. And I've said this story so many times now, but like we're self-funded. We have so much money in the Play to Earn fund and the community treasury and like all these different pools that can support esports for the foreseeable future. We can fund esports leagues without any sponsors. Do you know how rare that is in the esports world?
Crazy.
That like doesn't happen. When I was CEO of my broadcasting studio, some like 60 or 70% of the sponsorships I sold were to betting sponsors. And I had to get enough money to make our events happen, but it doesn't feel good in retrospect being sort of like owned by these sponsors because they know that your event doesn't exist without their money, and you know your event doesn't exist without their money. And to go back to that leverage conversation we had kind of at the beginning of this, I felt like I was the one with less leverage in those situations. And it's amazing now that like we still get a lot of inbound for sponsors in the Axie space. We can choose to work with the ones that are really reputable or further our mission or have some crossover with our ecosystem. But outside of that, like all that sponsorship interest, it trickles down, right? If we're going to be very picky about the sponsors we want to work with, we still have a really like Axie has the greatest audience in Web3, in my opinion. Super engaged,
for sure.
super eager to learn, and super receptive to other parts of blockchain. We're bringing people into blockchain through Axie, and then a lot of them will start learning about other parts of the ecosystem. So that sponsorship energy is there. Like, sure, maybe they want to work with Sky Mavis first. If we say, no, sorry, we're not accepting sponsors for this event, it's not like they just go to another game. I think they go down to the next best opportunity within Axie, which is people like yourself, people like that are running events on the current grant. So I'm actually really bullish on this wave of like third-party money that's going to start coming into the ecosystem once we build up a little bit more infrastructure. And I think a lot of that money is going to go to organizers, to casters, to people working in the esports gig economy, and at the end of the day, players. Most of it's going to end up in player pockets. So, from my lens, like, I want all of those groups to survive. Or not just survive, succeed. I want players, tournament organizers, casters, project managers, video operators. Like, all of these people are key to the esports ecosystem. And
for sure.
Yeah, I see a lot of vectors just pointing towards, like, we're really working on building an esports 2.0 kind of world. That sounds really grandiose, and all my friends from the traditional esports world roll their eyes when I say that, but I really do believe it, man.
This is why I'm so excited. This is why I'm so passionate about my esports team, right? I got the okay from my boss to say this. I can't name any specific names, but SuperWhale is already a pretty established esports team in the Axie community, at least, right? We're about to merge with like 2 other big competitive names out there, and I can't say who, but there's a reason why we're doing this. And it's just because, we see the potential in this space, right? And we want to be at the very top, man. You're going to hear some huge news in the upcoming months, and I absolutely can't wait.
All right, man, that's so exciting. We need to wrap this up pretty soon, but one of my last questions here, I think, is any thoughts about like traditional esports organizations coming in? Like, if one that is already sort of started a scholarship is Team Secret, right? Very popular in the Dota space. I think like PUBG Mobile. They have an Axie scholarship now. I did a podcast with the CEO of Secret to try to, maybe reach some of those Web 2 gamers a little bit. Do you see that as exciting, seeing those orgs coming in? Do you see that as intimidating? Are you excited to like stick it to them? Like, are you excited at the potential of maybe getting bought out by one of these orgs? I'm really curious about your perspective there.
I talked about it a little bit on stream, but one of the hugest names in esports, right? Like the biggest names. Because I come from a bunch of other games. I played so many games, so you hear names like TSM, Cloud9, that stuff all the time, right? Mm-hmm. One of the biggest organizations out there reached out to me, and they wanted me to run their whole esports program, esports team, offered me a very generous salary, and I was geeking out, right? Wow. Absolutely geeking out.
I mean, that's a hell of a compliment. Even if you don't take it, that is still like, that's got to feel good.
It feels amazing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this type of like level of org is about to come into the scene, right? Ultimately, I turned it down because I'm very loyal and I'm very bullish for my current guild and all the stuff we have coming. And I know they're gonna take care of me and everything like that. But wow, Andrew, like, I'll tell you the name off this broadcast right after this, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I feel similar. I have had a lot of meetings with a lot of big orgs. I wish I could tell you the names because people would be so excited to hear the people that we're talking to, but I just can't. They're not ready yet. So you got to be a little patient there. But it's very real. There's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes and a lot of people that are super excited about our space. You got to remember these big orgs, like, they move a little slow, right? They do a lot of research, and when they commit to something, they want to be really sure. So, like, that process starts way before they make that announcement of, like, hey, here's our team, right? It's a whole roadmap there. Yeah, so I welcome them, man, because guess what? They're just going to make everyone else's brand even more recognizable, right? So you're going to bring in, like, let's say a TSM or something into the scene, and then next thing you know, if SuperWhale is one of the best teams in the game, right? They're going to end up meeting. And then if TSM is going to face SuperWhale, people are going to hear about it. So just not intimidated at all. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to take on the challenge, compete against them. And it's just overall so good for the whole space. I love the confidence. I love the entrepreneurial attitude. I'm so stoked to have you guys building in this space. Glad that you've been able to stream consistently and enjoy it, not feel burned out, and super grateful to have, orgs like SuperWhale coming in and helping us build this esports infrastructure. There's a lot of independent actors that all have to work together to make esports possible, and players, organizations, organizers, casters, they're all a key part of it. So that it makes me so happy. I've got like a big smile on my face right now. I know you can't see it, but it really does make me happy to hear that you guys are making moves, and that, like, You're making strides. You're getting offers. Like, that's music to my ears, dude. You guys are doing it. That's congratulations. And it's still so early, right? There's still so far to go, and that's maybe what's even more exciting about it.
Thank you. Like I said, it's still so brand new, and that's why I never felt burnt out or anything. Everything feels like the honeymoon phase for me. I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface. I'm already doing such long streams on Twitch. When Origin comes out, man, it's over. Andrew, I did a 27-hour stream for the very last day of the season last week.
All right.
Yeah, I'm that kind. I'm on that level of. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll certainly be keeping an eye out for you on launch day. That's going to be.
For sure. No, every big event, patch day notes, last day of the season. I'm always doing 24-hour streams. I've done about 6 or 7 in my streaming time. Yeah.
You are hardcore parkour. I love it. Give us some plugs, dude. Where can people find you? I got Spamandrice in your nameplate here. I think you're Spamandrice everywhere. But any other leaks? Anything you can tease for us? Any ETA on the YouTube channel to get us excited there?
I do want to make YouTube. I'm currently in the process. My organization's gave me an editor and everything like that. But yeah, I stream every single day on twitch.tv/Spamandrice. I'm going to be streaming on Facebook too, so you guys can check me out there. I'm on Twitter underneath Spamandrice. That's pretty much it, man. Check out my stream. Like I said earlier, I do offer free coaching, free team building. I love giving back to the community. Every single day for this season so far, besides one day, I've been in the top 100. I just switched my name up because it helps me avoid stream snipers and whatnot.
I was just going to ask about that. So you were talking about your name. I just remembered, oh yeah, we've had Real Deal Hazelia. And I think you fooled some people too. I had Zero say to me on a podcast, every time I get matched up against Hazelia, she kicks my ass. And someone was like, I don't know if that's Hazelia, dude. You might be getting beat by Spamandrice.
No, it's actually the real one. So yeah, I am currently using Hazelia. She's a really, really good friend of mine. But what's crazy is she's top 100 now too. We're both top 100 right now. So very often we're really messing up the stream snipers. They're either coming into my stream or her stream saying, "Did I just face you? GG. I thought that was you." And I'm like, okay. So it's hilarious. And there's even people on leaderboard named Spamandrice now, and it's just great.
Funny. The meta of name changes. That's great. So we've got our 2 most popular streamers. We've got Spamandrice and Hazelia, both of them named Real Deal Hazelia, just to throw some wrenches in the mix. I love it. That's amazing. You guys are like next level with the trolling here. This is beautiful.
Yeah, it's just a little something for fun. And yeah, I can't wait to see what my name is next week. And yeah, make sure you check out my stream, and maybe you'll see.
Absolutely. Great. Well, that's a beautiful tease. Folks, absolutely give this man a follow. Find him on Twitch. If you go to that Axie Infinity page, he's always up at the top. It's been incredible to spend an hour getting to know you. I really appreciate you giving me some of your time coming here on Axie Tuesday. Of course, all of the links for his social media will be here in the YouTube description for those of you joining us late on the VOD. Appreciate everyone here tuning in on Twitch. Really appreciate all of you. We're doing these Axie Tuesdays every other Tuesday, so make sure you follow the Axie Infinity Twitch stream. Of course, follow the Axie Infinity socials, Twitter, YouTube, all just Axie Infinity. Don't miss a moment of the content. We've got some more great guests coming up. I don't know if we can top Spamandrice here, but we're sure going to try. Really appreciate it, man. Best of luck going forward with your guild, and I hope you continue to find success. This was really an absolute pleasure.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much once again for having me on, and I'm grateful for, as always, and I hope to keep doing the Axie Infinity team proud.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time, folks. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to each other. Next Tuesday, we'll have another interview. Actually, 2 Tuesdays, but there you go. See ya.